Let's go over how we go about connecting to the ECU and potential problems that might arise when you're connecting to your first ECU or a blank ECU, and how to get them online and working. So let's actually try and connect to our ECU. We've got the Ethernet cable connected, the ECU is powered online. We go to device and then connect. So it's found the device, which is serial number 1713, it's an S6 and it's on the 157 firmware. When we go to connect to it, we can actually see that the ECU is not online, and or it's stated that there's no calibration loaded. If we look at the maps, they're all blank, and you might even not have got to this state. It might have actually just said that there's no calibration loaded, and given the option to either program defaults, load the latest to suit. So what we're going to do is, now at this point, we're actually going to just go device, disconnect, and then file, close, and open up the base calibration which we've been sent. Or let's say we want to make a new one, you go to file, new, and make your first calibration offline. But in most instances, our support team will have sent a base calibration to get you going. So at this point, we're going to open the test board one. And what we're going to do is look at the software version of this. So we can see this is actually on 185 and the ECU has got 157 in it. So they both don't match, so that you can't load this file into the 1.7 firmware. When you go into it and go file load, it will be grayed out this calibration. So what we need to do in this scenario is we actually need to either load the 1.85 firmware version, okay, onto the ECU, or take this base calibration down back to 1.57. Now that can be done by going to cal and change software version, S6, and then you can choose the software version of the profile that you wish to have, okay. The other way of doing it is, if we go back into here and then go, onto S6, and then we can go down to say 1.57, which is really old, and that's kind of going back. That's going to go backwards really. What we want to be doing is going forward, moving forward to make sure that we've got the latest versions of everything. So you can either do two things, as I said, go back to 1.57 or bring it up the software firmware version on the ECU up to 1.85. Now the firmwares are actually found on our website. If you go to syvecs.com and then go to support and forum, we don't keep these in the download section because they get updated a lot, so it's far easier on the forum to keep track of them. So this is actually an S6, latest S6 firmware version. So we go to the latest one, so probably page 3 is going to be the best bet to do that. And then scroll down and find the 185. Oh, we've got 184, but 185 is not on there. Okay, so what that means then is we need to basically do two things again. We can either go back to the 157, or let's bring it up to the latest firmware version. So let's click on the link, download the latest firmware for the ECU. Once we've done that, let's run the exe file and let's get the firmware programmed into the ECU. So you can see here that the firmware version is 1713. So we're going to pop that in here, and that will raise all of the current profile data that's on the S6 ECU and bring it up to the 1.93. Now when we're doing this, obviously the base calibration which we've been sent is 185, so we are going to have to change that base calibration to 193. So let's open that calibration as we've already done, and then go to cal, change software version, S6, and then go to 193.5, which is the firmware just loaded in. Now here's important, it basically states all the maps that imported successfully and all the maps that didn't. Hit the tag button here, it's really useful to see any new changes that have been implemented on this firmware going forward. I would suggest you go through it and look at them. This has got a new rev limiter strategy, etc. Have a look at those and see to make sure they're set correctly. If you're unsure, just email support and make sure that you are 100% on board. So, I/O configuration pin assignments, this is a big area. Anything that's not defined will not allow you to bring the ECU online, and I'll show you that now. So let's go file save 1.93, overwrite it because I did it earlier. So what we're going to now do is go file close, device connect. It's now on 1.93. And when we connect to it, we can see that there's no calibration loaded. So what we want to do is go to load discount and then select our test file that I've just made, which is going to be in the top here, 1.93. I didn't associate it to any folder, so it's just going to be top of the saved tree. And when we bring it online now, we can see we're online, but we have problems in the top right. It says connected, not in sync. Now, what we need to do is bring our eyes down to the bottom right-hand corner of the SCAL window. It will actually state what the problems are. So let's go down here and we can see that the DIP1 is an unknown pin. This would be in a pin assignments. So if we go to here and then scroll down, oh yeah, DIP1 is undefined. So if we set that as not connected and then program the ECU, hopefully it'll now come online. Okay, no, it's unhappy about the fuel temp. So what that's basically saying to us is we need to go through all of the items that are undefined. Now there's an easy way of doing that. Just go to Edit at the top and then click on the View Undefined Functions by pressing U. And now we can see all the items that are undefined. So if we set these to not connected, now device program, we'll find the ECU has come online successfully. Now if there's any other reasons it won't come online, maybe for example the input type doesn't match the input, there's unassigned items in the data stream. In the data stream, if anything in here was set as not set, for example, and then you program it, again the ECU will come online and state that it's not an active data stream, must be filled. So that's another thing to look out for, because sometimes on a firmware update there's new items that are added in here or items have been removed. So just a little tip there. So we're online, we're connected now, that's great. The ECU looks happy on the top right, and now we've got some device errors that we need to look into.